someone's trying to wipe you out. It's pretty wild stuff. But I'll come back in a minute, and we'll go right into I'll go right into the fifth position. But that's just an overview of our green goddess, and it's a topic that is very difficult to discuss. But in one morning, in the blink of an eye, things will become clear on this subject, from what I've heard at least. So keep your eyes and ears open, but obviously something's going on. And we don't own the night, as they say, we own the light. You know, like the military, they say they own the night. Well, we own the light. That is our thing. These three suns, they are ours. And many of you have heard us called the people of this, or you know, the sun race, or all these other type of things. And they, some of the different ancient tribes worship that white horse for the sun, but we really don't know what spectrum of light they were necessarily talking about. There are three. And that third one's a big deal to us. And there will be a technology behind it. Yes, there will be. But that's the end of the green goddess, and I'm going to go into the fifth position next. And that's an overview of the end of wordism. One last thing about the green goddess, and I'm going to talk briefly about a particular energy flow. I want to demonstrate something for you, or talk about something before I go into the third and fifth position. The third, fourth, and fifth position. But you know, the type of topics that I talked about the green goddess is not something talked about, but it is all over the internet. I noticed that that these topics are coming up. That's why I'm covering it. Things I've heard in a roundabout way. Things for you to do more research on if that interests you. If it's not, you know, you can just skip it. But I'm trying to obviously you know, talk about topics that we've noticed a lot of people looking at. For instance, on YouTube, the Nephilim. Well, Nephilim comes from an Aramaic word, Nephal, and it refers to the constellation Orion and its semi-divine descendants. Pretty interesting stuff, I guess, huh? Back again to Orion. But that's one last caveat. And I'll give you another one too, that if you read any of Joseph Farrell's books, he went into this, which I've never ever seen this discussed anywhere. They don't discuss this on the Discovery Channel. But this is stuff I have heard about through what I will label different sections of the Wise Men. All of you, I'm assuming, have heard of Egyptian hieroglyphics. Well, Egyptian hieroglyphics are something obviously that most people can't read. But what I never knew was that to read many of them correctly, they read a certain way, dead on, like you're looking at them and reading them like you're reading a text. But to read them correctly, you have to be able to read three walls at a time. In other words, you have to be able to read the wall in front of you, in some cases the wall beside it, and the wall behind it all at the same time. Three walls. This concept of three comes over and over again with our race. We have the Trinity. You know, you have we could stay here all day on the subject of threes, but I thought that was a pretty interesting fact that when mentioning Joseph Farrell's book, he's the only one I've ever heard go into that. That's not something you hear on the Discovery Channel. Another topic that came up on Bugs, the blog, someone mentioned Discovery Channel. I don't know whether it was Simmons or Tim, but someone posted on there. I caught the subject of the Great Flood. Most of you heard the Great Flood, and Bob has talked about it. Talked about the Black Sea being a wall between the Black Sea basin flooding very quickly. But the Discovery Channel ran a special on a topic that I've heard discussed too, about the Great Flood and how a 7,000 or 8,000 square foot wave of water, tidal wave, hit the what we think of as the British Isles and carved the English Channel in no time flat, like an hour or something like that. It's quite a wall of water, and that's what they're labeling the Great Flood. Well, that's what I've heard before, but I never really took it seriously. I don't take a lot of this stuff seriously, but when they start playing on Discovery Channel, when you have a back channel books putting things out in a roundabout way, I start paying attention, because you know, I'm not big into the occult type aspect, but yet I pay attention to it, because the way I learned about energy through one of the wise men was in a roundabout way, and that's kind of what I'm leading into here. I want to talk about a time right in front of your face where energy was channeled very creatively. Was it done directly, indirectly? I don't really know, but it was ingenious. and it's something that happened with the big word, the naughty three-letter word, Jew. Yes, how many times have you heard that and just feared and freaked out? The evil word Jew. But you remember when the internet first came out, and I don't know, I'm just going to say 95 or early 90s. The first thing that the internet was full of was stuff about the Jews. It was totally comedy. I remember looking, and I'm going to look it up to see if this website's still active, but this Jewish Tribal Review came up, and Jew Watch and all this stuff. Let me punch in Jewish Tribal Review. But it was funny stuff watching this come up. But what was happening, yeah, it's still there. It's still there. Jewish Tribal Review. And this was all kinds of information about the Hebrews. And every single one of you, maybe you came into the racialist thing through Kevin McDonald's books. Those books are, Culture of Critique. I know academics that minds were just blown by that stuff. Ironically, some of the people that didn't even know my views on things, because most of my views haven't been known except maybe for the last 3 or 4 years. What you call come out of the closet around different people I know, because I'm no longer really worried about anything, or it's time to come out. I'll go into that when it's time. How do you come out? You come out on a consistent message. That's what I do and what I'm telling you to do. That's how you always talk about things. I always come out on some kind of consistent message, and I came out on consistent message surviving around the mantra. And I'll go into that on one time, how to come out around your neighbors. If you're a racialist, or if you're indigenous white rabbit and you want your rabbit hole, or whatever you want to call yourself. White nationalists, I guess they call themselves these days. But when it comes to this energy, you're at a time where you can't talk about Jews. No, if you're sitting at work, you can't say Jew. If you say Hachu, people look at you weird and start hiding underneath their desk. If you're at the restaurant and you say Hachu, people look at you. Did they say Jew? Did they say Jew? Arrest them! Arrest them! It is comedy, but at the same time, energy's got to flow. Yeah, energy's not static. You see, that energy jumped online. You have a whole website, Jew Watch, Jewish Tribal Review, Jew this, Jew that, Kevin McDonald's Culture of Critique. I mean, no one's read stuff like that. It is all that energy just all of a sudden just blew out over the internet, and of course we know who owns the internet. But they couldn't control that. And it was just comedy. I remember one of the wise men talking about energies like, they're over with. When that many people are looking at you, you're sitting at the center of the earth. You call yourself, the tolerant. Abraham Foxman walks around. Foxy Foxman, I call him from the ADL, walking around saying, tolerance, and hate. Well, they're the biggest haters. They're the most intolerant. But if you call yourself an oppressor and you're sitting in the center of earth oppressing people, at least to the world, the only people that really love the Jews, believe it or not, are white people. Most of the world doesn't. Most of the world would. I mean, Hitler doesn't have to fight them. A billion Muslims do so by proxy. I mean, it's. But that energy flew. When I was talking about 1998, why I wanted the crackdown, I wanted that energy just to fly. You see, when it came to discussing the Hebrews, you can't discuss them anywhere but online. And the energy has been flowing there. I mean, the type of propaganda, the type of stuff put out by the Arab press make Goebbels look like a juvenile. I mean, it is that is energy flowing. That is flowing, no doubt about it. And I'm sure it'll do what it always has done: explode one morning. I remember reading one of Bob's entries, one of the entries, or Bob by someone on the blog. That's the only basically racialist type blog I read. The actual is Bugs, basically, because it gets a good channel of info. But after September 11th, I believe it was Bob himself had wrote that the Jews won't have to worry about anyone denying the next Holocaust. We'll all be watching it on CNN. It's a pretty wild statement, but things are ramping up. I don't see a way out of that Middle East thing. They want out, but the problem for them is once they engage, they engage all the way. I mean, it's just like no backing down.